Minoa, Nebraska. It has a name on maps. It has an official population count in the U.S. Census. I mean, it even has a mayor, but there's a small detail that makes Minoa different from every other incorporated town in this country. The mayor is also the bartender, the librarian, the treasurer, and the entire population because Minoa has exactly one resident. Her name is Elsie Eiler.
Gives a chance to chat with Elsie.
Do you like being known as the only resident in the smallest town in America?
It doesn't impress me any. I mean, I don't see what the big deal is. I say the only thing that I do appreciate is the fact that it opened up this area that people see there's something in Nebraska besides I-80 going flat across the state, you know. So they realize that we've got hills and fields and farms and people up here in the northern part. That part, I was about a year and a half old when my folks moved to this farm just outside of town here.
And you went from 1st to 8th grade?
Here in town. Then I went to high school in Lynch.
Did you ever leave?
Well, we went to Kansas City, and then we took some more training down in Texas and we worked for Braniff Airline in Dallas, Texas.
What brought you back here?
Just where we both wanted to be. Same reason I'm still here. That's what I tell people. I'm not here because I have to be. I could pack up and go anywhere I wanted to, but...
I also heard that you were the mayor of the town. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. There's paperwork that has to be signed by mayor. I just sign whatever they want me to sign. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Well, I'm glad one of the rumors is true.
Yeah. One of them said they read somewhere that when it come election time that I put out signs to vote for me. And I said, who in the world made that up? Anybody comes along and wants the job, they can have it. Be called mayor. I don't care, you know.
She runs the town's only business, the Minoa Tavern, which doubles as the social center of the entire community. Truckers and farmers from surrounding areas stop by occasionally for a drink or meal, but when the customers leave, the town goes quiet again. Every year, Elsie files the town's official paperwork. She grants herself a liquor license. She collects taxes from herself. She signs the mayoral documents required to keep this town legally incorporated. In other words, the entire civic structure of an American town now exists to serve a population of 1. And yet Minoa refuses to disappear. The truth is, Minoa isn't the only place like this. Across the U.S., there are communities hanging on long after the economic reason for their existence vanished. Take Chicken, Alaska. Yeah, folks, that's not a typo. That's actually the name of the town. Chicken sits in eastern Alaska near the Canadian border, and getting there ain't easy. The road leading to it is partially unpaved, and during parts of the year, it can become a muddy nightmare that encourages all but the most determined travelers. In winter, temperatures regularly drop far below zero. The population? About 20 people. Chicken exists today because of a handful of residents simply refusing to leave. It started as a gold mining camp in the late 1800s when prospectors flooded into Alaska chasing dreams of sudden wealth. When the gold faded, most of the miners moved on, but a few stayed behind. And over time, stubbornness became the town's entire identity. If you visit Chicken today, you'll find a couple of small businesses catering to adventurous tourists driving the remote highways of Alaska. There's a cafe, a gift shop, and a bar. But beyond that, the surrounding landscape quickly swallows the town again. Forests, mountains, and silence. It's a reminder that isolation isn't just about distance, it's about scale. In places like Alaska, the environment itself dictates how people live. Roads are very expensive to build across frozen ground. Supply chains are fragile. Weather decides when planes can land and when boats can dock. The result is communities that operate under rules that feel completely foreign to most Americans. And sometimes those rules produce towns that look almost surreal. Consider Whittier, Alaska. On paper, Whittier has a population of a few hundred people. That doesn't sound unusual. I mean, small towns all over America have similar numbers, but this place has one feature that makes it unlike almost anywhere else. Nearly the entire town lives in a single building. The structure is called Begich Towers. The structure is called Begich Towers. Originally built as a military facility during the Cold War, the massive concrete building now houses apartments, a grocery store, a post office, and several other services. In the brutal Alaskan winters, having everything under one roof simply makes life easier. Residents can walk down the hallway to get their mail. They can take an elevator to reach the local convenience store. Children can leave the building through a tunnel that connects directly to the school. For months at a time, the building becomes kind of a self-contained world. And if that sounds strange, remember that Whittier isn't isolated just because of its climate. It's also isolated by infrastructure. For decades, the only way in or out of the town by land was through a narrow tunnel originally built for trains. Today, the tunnel still exists, yeah, but it remains one of the most unusual road connections in America. Traffic must alternate directions through the single lane passage, meaning vehicles can only enter or leave at specific times. Miss the window and you wait. In other words, even getting here requires planning. Then there's Supe, Arizona. Supe is located deep inside the Grand Canyon on land belonging to the Havasupai tribe. The canyon walls surrounding the village are so steep and rugged that building a simple road isn't practical, which means Supe has something no other town in the United States can claim. Its mail is delivered by mule. Every weekday, a line of pack animals travel the narrow trail leading into the canyon carrying letters, packages, and supplies. The route is about 8 miles long and winds through terrain that would challenge even experienced hikers. In a country obsessed with next day delivery and instant gratification, Supe operates on a completely different timeline. There is no quick trip to the supermarket, no late night food delivery apps. If something needs to arrive, it rides in on the back of a mule, and the residents seem perfectly comfortable with that. Which raises an interesting question, like, why stay? Why continue living in places where access to the modern world is so limited? The answer varies from town to town, but it usually comes down to some combination of tradition, independence, and a deep connection to the landscape. For many residents, isolation just isn't a problem. It's the entire point. McCarthy sits near the edge of Wrangell St. Elias National Park, one of the largest protected wilderness areas in the world. The town was originally built to serve a copper mining operation in the late 1900s. When the mine shut down, most people assumed McCarthy would just fade into history. Instead, a small group of residents turned it into something closer to an experiment in off-grid living. There is no traditional road leading directly into the town. Visitors park several miles away and cross a footbridge before entering McCarthy. The town has no chain stores, no major infrastructure projects, and very little interest in becoming something more conventional. Electricity is often generated locally. Water systems are simple. The pace of life moves at whatever speed the environment allows. In a way, McCarthy represents something that modern cities have largely lost: space, silence, the ability to exist without constant noise and pressure from the outside world. Of course, not every isolated town exists by choice. Some are isolated simply because geography trapped them. Point Roberts, Washington is a perfect example. On a map, Point Roberts looks like it belongs to Canada. It's located on a small peninsula that extends south from British Columbia. But thanks to a quirk of the US, Canada borders drawn in the 1800s, the land technically belongs to the US. The result is one of the strangest logistical situations in North America. If residents of Point Roberts want to drive to the nearest American city, they must first cross into Canada, then cross back into the US. That means 2 international border crossings just to reach the mainland. For years, this odd arrangement created minor inconveniences. But when the COVID-19 pandemic temporarily closed the US-Canada border, Point Roberts suddenly found itself cut off in a way few communities ever experience. Tourism collapsed. supply chains became complicated. Residents who depended on cross-border travel for basic errands suddenly had to adapt. It was a reminder that isolation can appear in unexpected ways. Sometimes it's not mountains or deserts that isolate a town. Sometimes it's a line on the map. Then there's Utqiagvik, Alaska, formerly known as Barrow, the northernmost city in the U.S. It sits above the Arctic Circle, where the sun disappears completely for more than 2 months each winter. Temperatures can plunge far below zero, and the surrounding Arctic Ocean freezes into a vast sheet of ice. Roads connecting the town to the rest of Alaska simply don't exist. Everything arrives by plane or seasonal shipping routes, and yet thousands of people live there. Life here revolves around rhythms that feel ancient compared to the modern world. The seasons dictate everything. Hunting remains a crucial part of local culture. Community ties are strong because survival in such an environment often depends on cooperation. From the outside, it might look harsh, but to many residents, it's home. All of these places challenge a comforting assumption that many people hold about modern civilization: the assumption that progress eventually reaches everywhere. In reality, progress tends to follow very specific paths. Highways, shipping lanes, rail networks, fiber optic cables. These systems create corridors of development, and towns located along those corridors tend to thrive. However, places outside these networks slowly fade from the national consciousness. They're still there, though. They just aren't part of the daily conversation. This is where towns like Manawi, Chicken, McCarthy, Supe, Whittier, Point Roberts, and Utqiagvik feel almost like glitches in the modern map. Reminders that the U.S. still contains pockets where time moves differently. And if you look closely, there's something strangely appealing about that. Because while cities grow louder and more crowded each year, these remote communities offer something increasingly rare: distance. Like not just physical distance, but psychological distance from the constant noise of the modern world. Of course, isolation comes with trade-offs. Medical care can be difficult to access. Economic opportunities are very limited. Infrastructure improvements happen slowly, if they happen at all. Living in these places requires resilience. But the people who stay often value that resilience. They value independence. They value quiet. And perhaps most of all, they value the feeling that their lives are not entirely dictated by the frantic pace of the outside world. In an age where almost every corner of the planet has been mapped, photographed, and uploaded to the internet, it's tempting to believe that true isolation no longer exists. But it does. You just gotta know where to look. And the next time someone tells you that the modern world has erased distance, remember this. Somewhere in Nebraska, a woman is running an entire town by herself. Somewhere in Arizona, a mule train is carrying the mail into a canyon. Somewhere in Alaska, the entire community lives inside one building while snow piles up outside. And somewhere out there, there's probably another town so isolated that the rest of the country barely remembers it's there at all. The United States may look fully connected on a map, but maps have always been a little bit dishonest. Because between the highways and the cities, there are still places where the world feels a lot bigger than we like to admit. I'm your host, Curtis. If you like this video and would love to see more videos like it, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.